Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Dean Johnson Alexander, and I'm here to host the show, Life for Happiness. Our guest today has not called in, but we're waiting for her to show up. Now, I have my co-host here, Kelly. Are you there, Kelly?
Yeah, hi.
Now, while we're waiting for the person to call in, when you do your chakra days, did you say that you told me last time that you were kind of growing a little bit?
Yeah, I'm finding that not only am I able to help out other people by doing that, which I absolutely love. That's like my thing. But it also helps me to get in more practice, which I'm finding helps a lot too, because that way I'm getting more feedback and people are telling me that I'm accurate, and, you know, that makes me feel good when I'm spot on and I can help somebody with some serious things happening because I'm able to perceive it and I'm able to look ahead and see how that affects other things in their lives. So it's that positive feedback loop. Or, you know, if I were to get negative feedback, that's helpful too, because that helps guide. So, yeah, it's a huge growing experience for me. And to be able to get more confident, to know that I'm picking up on things. And, I mean, so far, I haven't had anything negative said. Like, no, that's not me. I mean,
we have a caller. We have a caller. Let me see if this is her.
Oh, okay, cool.
Are you Debra Silverman?
I'm Debra Silverman.
Hello. Okay, thank you. Now,
Hi.
Debra Silverman,
Hi.
let me go ahead and introduce you. You're a licensed psychotherapist in addition to an astrologer. What you do is you combine the two, so that thought that would make for an interesting interview. I've never interviewed you before, but I read about you. We both have the book, Top 100 Psychics and Astrologers in America. And we saw your name in the book. And we decided to have you on. You said that you combine the two. Now, is that accurate, that you combine being a psychotherapist to being an astrologer? How do the two go together?
Well, first of all, they're best friends. If you think about pure psychology, it's all about understanding the human psyche and wanting to figure out why we do what we do. And that's exactly what astrology does. It explains patterns and behaviors and impulses and karma even. So it's a direct connection between the heart, the soul, the mind, and then it explains. Carl Jung said psychology would be a dinosaur science until it included astrology. He was an astrologer. So it's not foreign that people that want to understand character would use astrology as a tool.
Now, before last night we talked to, I think it was last night I talked to your assistant, and they asked for birth date information of both me and Kelly. I mean, are you saying you have something about both of us, or?
Yes. First of all, is there a really funny noise going on the show?
Well, I have a feeling that probably what's happening is the hurricane is probably interfering with a lot of the phone signal, probably. Just what
the
I'm
hurricane.
Thinking, because I live in Destin, Florida. We had to evacuate.
Oh, wow. So that would explain it.
So he's dedicated. He's doing this during a hurricane.
I'm doing this in a hotel in Alabama, so.
Oh, my goodness. And is it raining?
Not in Alabama, but, I mean, we may not have anything in the house. We may not even have a house. I mean, that's the sad part, you know. I really feel bad. I mean, I'm like, so I do this. I started doing this podcast to get over depression. And to be honest, I think it did the same thing for Kelly. You know, I had her come on, and I had her do some shows with me. And she was flying high as a kite. She'll say that to you. Those were her words. They'll verify that she used those words. So.
Wow, it sounds so funny.
I
I can hear
apologize,
funny.
ma'am.
No worries at all. I understand. It's just reality. So, Jonathan, have you ever had your chart looked at before?
I have. But I've never had it looked at by someone who combined psychotherapy in addition to astrology. I sort of read that you kind of looked at it differently. Like it wasn't, will you meet the tall, dark, handsome man? It's more like you kind of took a different approach. And I was just maybe you might elaborate on what the approach was.
So, well, the first thing is, I don't know if you knew this, Jonathan, you were born under a full moon. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
You were born right at the peak of the full moon, yes. So that describes a personality type who's very honest and very blunt and tells the truth. Is that one of your personality traits where you have a little bit of a Mr. Blunt man?
Well, it's funny. I had another psychic tell me, you can't stand a liar. You can't stand a liar. That was Jill Dane and Mickey Dane. Mickey Dane told me that. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mickey Dane.
No,
but,
I don't know Mickey Dane.
She was also in the book, the top 100 psychic astrologers, and I try to be blunt. I feel bad when I'm not.
You feel bad when you're not. That's so good. Most people get self-conscious when they're blunt, and you feel bad when you're not being blunt.
Well, it's sort of like, it's sort of like I don't want to. I want to make sure I'm saying the right thing, or telling information that's wrong. Like with my boss, I book lunch and learns, and I'm always making sure that, oh God, I want to make sure that I tell her the right amount of employees, so I don't get in trouble later,
Yes. The other thing about your chart, Jonathan, is you were old when you were young. You should have come in a little bit serious, and you're probably getting better as you're getting older. Have you noticed that? You were a serious
when
kid.
I was young?
Did you feel
that's
responsible
true.
when you were young?
Well, it was like I was born with cerebral palsy. I had a lot of disabilities. So
wow.
I couldn't experience, I had cerebral palsy and I had to have a lot of surgeries. And, because of that, I can't drive. So it's just, they told my mom, it's like, okay, he's going to be in a wheelchair. And she didn't like hearing that. And, so she worked with me, and then a year later, I was much better.
Well, there you have it. So that was and it's in the house of health, that the constriction. It doesn't surprise me, but there's a very strong will. One of your gifts is being stubborn. Not giving up.
Right.
Like just sticking to it, even when you don't. Yeah.
Do you see
Can you relate
things,
to that?
Yeah, I can relate to that. Let me ask you this. Do you think I have a good chart for radio?
Well, yeah, you're a Gemini. So Gemini's whole thing is they love to communicate, and then you have these planets in Taurus that they resonate. Like their voice is not a normal voice. They want to sing. They want to share their voice. I'm wondering if we should do this show when we're not in the technical difficulties, because it would be a lot easier to hear. I'm wondering if everyone else is hearing what I'm hearing.
I think that we're fine. I think that we're fine. I Kelly.
Don't hear.
Yeah, Kelly
I
is
don't
enjoying
hear it in
herself.
Michigan.
Believe me, Kelly she enjoys herself when we do the shows.
You can't hear it, Kelly?
Oh, I can hear fine. Yeah, I don't hear anything in the background.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's so interesting. So let me tell you that's so interesting that you and Kelly are exact opposites. So Jonathan is Gemini Sag, born under a full moon. That makes the opposition that flavor, honesty and truth-telling and being a communicator. Kelly, you're the other way around. Your sun's in Sag and you're Gemini rising. So you've got a similar quality, the two of you, about wanting nothing more than to share the truth and tell people and inform them and educate. That's what your charts are built for. The desire to communicate big ideas. Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's so interesting. How did you guys meet?
Well, this is how we met. She does, what we do on our shows is we do our chakra days, where we have someone come on and then they get their chakras done by phone. And the reason we do that is this allows the person to promote themselves on their own terms, you know. Well, what happened was I was having a lot of financial problems, and Kelly got me on the phone, and she goes, "Well, get your chakras done," you know. And it was a guy that she was with at the time, Tim, who did my chakras. And he goes through the chakras. He's like coughing, wheezing, you know. It's like The Exorcist. I nicknamed Tim Max von Sydow because that's what he's like on the, he does chakras. And then the next day I hear that he had like 4 seizures from doing my chakras. It was just too much. So I go out walking, and this lady comes up in a minivan. She walks out of the minivan, walks right up to me with a purse, and she goes, "You look like you could use some extra money. Here." And she hands me $3.
What?
And I tell her, I said, well, I started to thank her. She goes, "Don't thank me, thank God." And then she gets in the minivan and she drives away. I didn't tell you that part of the story. The thing that shook me about that is I don't think it's really safe to walk up to complete strangers and give them $3 because I could rape them, I could, you know. So I look at that as rather significant. And I always tell people that story is the advertisement for Kelly, because, it's sort of like with Kelly, people are coming up to me, they're like Kelly and Tim, that were the ones that got me into this. And also, her doing her chakra days, it allows us to do more of a regular show rather than a show like it's on sporadically, like every couple of weeks, every couple of months, Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I'm having a really hard time hearing you now. But that could just be me.
Oh, sometimes it's muffled for me, but I don't hear any noises.
But are you able to understand what I'm saying? Okay, or
yeah, the last I got the story. Yes, that's interesting. But it gets clear. It's funny when Kelly speaks, it gets clear. All the sounds go away.
Oh, weird.
Well, I don't know.
Funny.
Maybe it's because I 3-wayed Kelly in, or maybe that could be it, or something. I don't know, but I think we're understanding what we're saying. I mean, you seem to understand what the. Huh?
Yes, and clearly there's magic. I mean, Kelly, your chart. Do you have the gift of mediumship or being able to communicate with the other side?
I've done that, and it surprised me a little bit. But I had a best friend who died at the age of 25, and I was with him. And I was with his parents as well because he had leukemia and he was in U of M hospital. But, he said he would be my guardian angel. And they have somebody in their family who is like a medium and could communicate with his younger brother who passed from MS. And it was weird because just one time I was moving into my friend's house at the time, and all of a sudden it was like my friend Jim came, and he told me a bunch of stuff that didn't make sense to me, but I thought, well, I might as well pass it on to his mom, see if she gets anything out of it. And I said something about 3 Christmas trees. They were moved since last year, and something about a raccoon and a squirrel in one. And she just flipped out because she said, "We just moved the tree from where we normally do, and we got that extra one, so we have 3, and we just bought a raccoon ornament and a squirrel one, and they're in the tree." And so, just kind of like it relieved me because I thought, okay, good, I'm not talking crazy here. And, there's no way I could have gotten that unless it came from Jim, because they live like 5 hours away and I hadn't seen them in a long time. So, that's kind of how it got started with me. And then I was able to, it's almost like being in a trance, but remembering it. And then, like, very detailed afterward, just remembering the whole experience. And there's been other ones where I've had near-death experiences, and I was able to get information that way. And one of the times I was told it wasn't my time yet because it felt absolutely beautiful being there. Meanwhile, I'm looking down at my body intermittently. My friend's panicking because they're saying, she doesn't have a pulse and there's no breathing. We're going to have to get the crash cart. And I'm thinking, wait, no, I'm right here. Why can't you hear me? Why am I not moving? And then, but yet I didn't want to leave this beautiful place that I was at and just this wonderful, wonderful feeling of this is where I belong. And then they said, nope, not your time yet. You have more to do, time to go. But it was cool because I saw, like, my relatives and people I didn't know that I was related to, but they all felt familiar. I saw, like, my best friend. I saw other people there. And it's not like you see faces. They look sort of like cookie-cutter, glowing white figures, but you can tell each one of them's personality and relation to you. So it was like a huge reunion. So
wow.
I've never really told anybody that. Yeah, I mean, so, some people think that near-death is not real or it's just your body's way of reacting and, psychically you're producing this. But I've never felt anything like that before. And to be able to relay messages that make sense to people but don't make sense to me, that kind of tells me there's something going on.
Wow. You're blessed.
How do you feel about that?
That's
I'm
a
what?
blessing. You're blessed.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a blessed story. I've done lots and lots and lots of research. It's one of my favorite topics is near-death experiences, and it's consistent across the board that the one thing everybody says is they don't want to come back here. It's like the fantasy or the fear people have about dying dispels in 1 minute.
Yeah. I mean, I still fear it because I fear, like, I don't want to leave things undone where I know that people will miss me. And I've lost a baby this year. I mean, at 7 weeks, 4 days. And, that was traumatic because I've never been pregnant before, And so I keep wondering, was there something else I could have done? Was I worrying too much? Was it stress? But I had another medium come on the show we did, and she said it just wasn't time. My body wasn't ready yet. The baby wasn't ready to become, a full baby and have, the life yet. It wasn't ready, and neither was I. But later on I would be. And that, to me, makes perfect sense because I was in an accident last year, broke my foot, finally got to where I was back to almost my old self. And then this year I ended up in a major car versus semi-accident where I was a passenger, and the ER people had no idea how we made it out because we're all taken by ambulance to the hospital. My friend's mom got a broken back, but miraculously she's not paralyzed. And it's just like I've had all these near-death things, and I'm still here, which, I've even had depression at times where I thought about exiting. And, luckily I'm clear of that. Like, I haven't experienced any of that for over a year, but I feel like I have more clarity and purpose. But I had to go through so much emotional turmoil and pain to be able to come out the other side, and I think that's where I'm at this point. But I'm still dealing with a lot of residual, like, big deal things from the car accident, but I feel like eventually here everything's going to come together, and then maybe I can have that baby.
Wow. That was an intense story, from dying on the other side to losing a baby to a car accident. Sagittarius, you're not doing life small, are you?
No, it's like go big or go home. So
that's obvious.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you ever seen your chart.
Not really, no. I mean, I had one that somebody, like, said, oh, something rising in Jupiter, something, and it made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, people speak funny languages. I speak English. The short answer is you have a lot of fire, which means that your life force is bigger than most people. Using it, it will use you, which is where the depression comes in. So it's very important that you are constant. You have to be physical. Your chart will not survive without you moving energy on a regular basis. Do you do any physical activities as far as athletics, sports, or yoga? Or
normally, yes. It's just right now they're telling me I need to keep my back straight because I have bulging discs. And I'm in physical therapy, but I'm not going to be doing much with the stretch that they showed me to take the pressure off and hopefully get it back to where it should be. And then we're systematically working on different areas of where the accident affected me. And it brought up residual stuff that I'd already dealt with before, because I was in a domestic violence incident back in 2002, and that's another one of my near-death experiences. And so it just kind of like brought everything to the surface to re-experience, and I'm not going to let it keep me down. I mean, it took me, because I had a closed head injury, it took me like a good 15 years to get my life back and to finally be able to remember childhood. I mean, it was terrible when I first started getting the memories back, because I was having they're not nightmares, but they're night terrors, and those are worse because it was reliving things. And it was all the worst stuff coming first. And so I think that also led to the depression. And before I was getting better, it was very frustrating because I didn't know who my parents were. I didn't know how to talk. I had to go through everything and learn it like a little kid. But, you know, what's amazing about that is you get to see the world through the eyes of a child, and that is so beautiful, to experience things for the first time again and to be excited about things like you've never experienced them before.
Well, I was going to say something about seeing things through the eyes of a child. Sometimes kids, they pick up on things that we don't. I'll give you an example. My nephew Ryan, you know that song, sing a song of sixpence baked in a pie, when the birds are open, the birds begin to sing. When, you know, that nursery rhyme?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, it's and basically what it is the guy opens up the oven and these birds start flying out. You know, my nephew Ryan, the inquisitive little guy that he was, he said, what's really funny about that nursery rhyme is that when you open up the oven, the birds were still alive when they came out of the oven.
Good point.
I'm like, I never really thought of that. And when he was young, he had a funny vision of me. Like, I mean, he knew that I lived in Atlanta and that my parents lived in Florida at the time. So I would say that he says, okay, I have a question. When it's time for dinner and your parents are not around and you're like, dinner, where's my dinner? I need my dinner. And they're not around. What happens then? You didn't know that I could fix my own dinner? And one time he was driving in the car and he wanted to go to the beach because it was 195 degrees outside. Well, we couldn't figure out why he kept saying it's 195 degrees. And it turned out he thought the gas gauge was the temperature.
Oh, gosh.
And then there was my other nephew, not to get too I better not tell you that next one. My nephew Isaac, he wanted to open up a pizza place called it People Ordering Our Pizzas. And it's like, that would not go over well, you know. Just
nah, that'd be fine. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, she is sort of. I was thinking about this earlier today, Kelly, and I was going to tell you this on the radio. I think, you know what really appealed to me and made me want to have you on the radio with me was? You know what it was?
No.
I saw a video of Kelly talking at her mother's funeral.
Oh.
And she was saying, I would like to thank everybody for coming out for my mom. And she was talking, you know, he was public speaking in a very uncomfortable environment, and I always think about that a little bit. Every time I liked how she handled that situation. Don't you agree, Debra?
Yeah, I didn't get to hear it, but I can imagine.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the talk at the funeral, or
But I can see certainly where the two of you connect. Go ahead.
That's where I saw it, and I thought, wow. I mean, I really need to have this lady talk more often.
Those near-death experiences.
I always like to include people.
That's the most important story you can share with people. Telling people about near-death experiences. Definitely. And telling people about near-death and giving them the up view. Like, people don't realize there's nothing to be afraid of. It's one of the greatest fears in human nature. So for you, Kelly, to share that and do it from the place of your heart where it's so, because I could feel how fresh it was, that it's not contrived and you didn't read it somewhere, you had a direct experience. And so that's, for all of us, it's so important to know that death is not to be feared.
Oh, yeah. And Tim, my friend, and I were present when my mom passed, and I've been present for when my grandfather passed. And we could see with my mom, because Tim wasn't with me with my grandfather, but we could see and feel her spirit rising from her body as she took her last breath. It was a little bit after, because you don't die the minute you stop breathing, but it was so peaceful. And she had been so torn, afraid to leave, because with what I had been through, she wanted to make sure I was going to be okay. And for a long time I wasn't, because she was my guide. She was my light. She was the one that helped me learn everything again. So, but at that moment she passed, it was like she was telling me that I was going to be okay, but she was still afraid to leave. And I told her that if she needed to go, I would be okay. I would learn, and I would find my way. And that's when it was almost like I could feel her doing a sigh of relief. And, that's when she let go completely, and she was gone.
Wow. That's so beautiful.
It's funny because I have a similar story, but I wasn't there when it happened, but it was the closest thing to being. My grandmother died in I think it was in June, and she was 107 years old.
That's long.
I know, 107. Well, what happened was that it was. I know it sounds kind of strange, but it was a surprise because, nothing ever really ended it with her. It was always like she would bounce back and she would bounce back. Well, what happened was that she was about 107, and then apparently she was at a baby shower for my cousin, and she died literally moments after the baby shower. My sister Cassie went to kiss her goodbye. My sister Tasha was the last person to see her alive, and then they sort of knew it was going to happen because she hadn't been eating in a couple of days, but it was kind of a shock, It was just sort of. She was a very. The funny thing about my grandmother is that she was always obsessed with us getting married. She would say, "Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend?" And we're like, and she was married to my grandfather for 70 years. I don't even think there's even a word for that.
Wow.
For 70 years. So it's just sort of it's similar to what you're talking about, but not exactly. I have never actually seen someone actually die in front of me. It was really weird, seeing my father, telling him. I think what it is also really weird is that it was the last grandparent, and when the last grandparent dies, you sort of see your parents differently, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, do you understand what I'm saying, Debra?
Yes, of course, yes.
It's sort of fun. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to I just wanted to say something. I loved your picture in the book.
The picture of me?
The one of you. It was the it's in the book the top 100 psychics and
Oh! I don't even know what picture that was. That's funny. That was just a random. Someone called me. The top 100 psychics.
Yeah, you had this big smile on your face, and you were wearing this necklace, and I saw the picture, and that was actually, even though I liked your the interview, it was a picture that did it. I mean, it was you have this glow about you in the picture. I mean, don't you agree with that? Yeah, Kelly?
Absolute glow and just beautiful eyes, like you can
very
see
Mona Lisa,
into people.
Very Mona Lisa. You look like a Mona Lisa.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. That was an honor. Go ahead.
What were you saying, Kelly?
You know, Jonathan, how you had that experience with your grandmother passing after she saw everybody?
Yeah.
That was how one of my grandfathers went, and that's another way that one of my grandmothers went. Like, my grandmother had a birthday party, and, you know, everybody came, which was a big deal because people live in other countries in my family. They live all over the United States. She finally got to see everybody, and she was in a nursing home, which they had struggled not to put her in until, you know, it was to where she really needed that much help. But after that, she died that night, like a content, happy woman after she talked to from childhood. I mean, he was still alive, and it just gave her a peace. And then when I was with my grandfather from the other side of the family, he was hanging on until the very last person showed up, and then, which was myself and another person. And then we were like, okay, if this is your time, we're going to be sad that you're leaving, but, you know, everybody's here that needed to be here, that was coming. And so, you know, it's amazing.
Because there really is no right time to die for a good person. I mean, you know, you always sort of feel like, well, because it's like a person comes into your life, you want to see them grow older, you want to see them have kids, and then when they have kids, you want to see those kids grow older and they have kids, and then
Yeah. I mean, but he was just absolutely struggling for each breath with pneumonia, and they couldn't fix it, and, you know, he had Alzheimer's, but yet he knew when we were all there, and we wanted to give him that peace so that he didn't feel like he was leaving us in a lurch if it was his time to go. And, you know, we wanted him to know that everybody was there. And I think that brought him the peace that he didn't feel like we were pushing him to go, but he felt light-minded.
Beautiful.
And I think that's important. You know, nobody wants to go worrying about those things, worrying what you're going to do to the people left behind. And, you know, like, we didn't want to push him to be like, okay, yep, time to go. But, you know, we wanted to just let him know everybody was there. And that's when he went. After he was, you know, people. Yeah, it's weird. Like, I have one side of the family that is really intuitive that way. And then the other side of the family is really intuitive with being able to tell if something bad's going to happen. Like, my grandma didn't let my mom go on a trip with her friends to Lake Michigan. And my mom's like, why? Why am I grounded? I didn't do anything. She's like, no, I just don't want you to go. I feel like something bad's going to happen. And it ended up that her girlfriend had a convertible, and her, you know, friends were all in there, and they ended up drinking, and then it ended up they got wrapped around a tree.
Whoa.
Yeah. So nobody made it. I think there might have been one person that made it from the other car, but, you know, it maybe two, but, like, one person was paralyzed from the neck down, and, I mean, it was just the way my mom would have sat in the back on the top of the back, you know, behind the seat, she would have been one of them launched out of it, and she wouldn't have made it.
Oh.
So,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
there are these things on both sides. And, one of the reasons I was really hesitant to come forward with this, it was because with their religion of Christianity, it was, we realize you have these gifts, but don't use them because we don't know where they're from. If we don't know they're from God, then who does that leave? And
yes.
so
I've always been very careful with who I tell the shows about too, not because I'm not slighting Kelly or anything like that. It's just that I want to make sure that the people that come on here that have the chakra days, or the people that are going to call in when we do the interviews, are open people. And I don't want to expose Kelly to anybody that's going to bring negativity to the show.
Thank
Does that
you.
make sense?
It does to me.
I mean, it was a when let me ask you this. It also hurts to me that you have this show called Tell Me Your Story. Is that what it's called?
It's called Tell Me a Story, but it was for many years. I'm no longer doing that show, but I did do a radio show where people would call in, and I would do their charts, and they would tell their story, just like what's happening right now.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, I mean, I guess that's in a sense what we do, because, see, like, the other day we did we did a lady that was a Playboy Playmate, and we did her chakras. And I think the reason I like this idea of the chakra days is because when we had her on, a lot of times if somebody is a Playboy Playmate, you would think, oh, Howard Stern,
Yeah.
But, instead we didn't do that. We were able to say, okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Well, I'm a real private person, and she talked about how this guy that she was campaigning for politically, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the chakra days allows people to promote on their terms, not ours. And they get to, it is true. When you want someone to tell your story, you kind of want them to do it on their terms, not yours, if that makes sense.
And I like it, too, because you're not pigeonholing somebody into, oh, well, now you're typecast into this certain kind of person, whatever that is, whether you're a writer, a painter, adult entertainer, whatever. You're not pigeonholed to that. You're looked at as a real person, a whole person, not just what you do or what you've done or what you're famous for, because there's a person in there beyond that.
And also,
way beyond that.
It's also, not to interrupt, but about the pigeonholing, like I named my show Life, Laughter, Happiness for several reasons, and Kelly likes this because I did this for the benefit. One, I didn't want to name the show after myself because everybody who had a show had done that. And I also didn't want to take all the credit if I named the show after myself. If I named the show after myself, it would be me taking the credit, and it would be putting the good people who helped out with the show, who have done wonderful things with the show, I should say, Kelly, not to embarrass Kelly, but I'm going to say it anyway, not to put Kelly in the back seat. I want Kelly to receive credit, too, and I want Kelly to feel like she's a part of the show. Well, when we had the medium, I made her do a little happy dance on the air because I introduced her as a co-host. And you remember that, Kelly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was, really trying to contain it and just act normal. Act normal. Don't act like a giddy little kid. I'm okay. Yeah. But, I was doing a little secret happy dance, and I waited till after the show to tell you.
Yeah. Now, we have about 5 minutes left. Do you do any other shows? Like, are you hosting any other shows, or?
I'm on Hay House Radio every month. Every full moon, I do a show.
Okay,
nice.
full moon. Okay. Now, is that like on iHeart or?
That Hay House has their own radio station.
Oh.
Yeah, Hay House.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, Louise
They have
Hayes.
some wonderful spiritual books.
They do, yeah. So that's what I do that every full moon.
Oh, very nice. Very powerful, I'm sure.
It's really fun, and I'm very close friends. What was your question, Jonathan?
No, go on with what you were saying. You said that you were about ready to answer my question. You said that you're very close friends. What were you saying?
With Colette Barron Reed. Colette Barron Reed and I work together. We're designing a course called Stars and Cards, where she's doing her divination cards. I don't know if you know.
Colette Barron Reed. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Kelly.
Yeah?
Yes? Colette Barron Reed. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I asked you to look up names in the book that you liked.
Yeah?
That's Colette Barron Reed was one of them.
Yeah. Wow.
You remember that?
Yeah.
We tried to get Colette Barron Reed on the show, but she was a little busy. I hope that we can have her on. That was, or maybe you could both come on. Maybe would you like that, Debra?
Well, she is very busy, Colette, and we have a very even I don't even know how you got me on today. I'm kind of impressed.
Well, I emailed your assistant. And then I basically just, then I gave you the number, and I'm very
then
persistent.
like magic, I appeared. That's so
I'm
impressive.
very persistent.
Yes, you are. That's part of your chart.
But I'd like to get
that in your chart. Will we be able to see our chart? Because I know, like, I've been talking about near-death experiences and all this stuff, but is there a way that we can, each find out about our, each other's chart?
You can
go
to my website. Go to my website, Debra, it's 3 words, DebraSilvermanAstrology.com. And there's a list of certified astrologers who I've trained who would give you, it's worthwhile to get an in-depth and speak English. Most astrologers talk funny language, like they have abstract jargon and you don't really understand it, but ours are all trained to speak English so that when you hang up the phone, you're like, oh, there's the reason why I do what I do, or here's the timing, or all those factors are articulated. So, yeah, if you guys want a reading, and to see your charts, it's very simple. You just get a reading from a certified astrologer.
That would be great. Thank you. And that helps our listeners, too.
Yeah, anyone that wants, and I also have a school that twice a year we have a school that I teach astrology. So the school just closed. It's in September is the first time it opens. It opens again in January. And if anyone's interested in learning in a very simple way online with a small group, it's 10 people in a class, and then there's a mentor, and they study your chart. And by the end, you can speak astrology. It's very in-depth. And then I also have this really cool platform called The Star Community, 3 words. thestarcommunity.com, and that's where you can learn astrology on a day-to-day basis for just a monthly, I think it's $22 a month, and you can learn where the moon is today and whether it's a full moon and when the next eclipse is and what it means and all that.
Wow. I think I want to do that. I want to do both.
Yeah, that's just community. I think you'll have a lot of fun. It's really very educational, to put it lightly. And then the school, you'll get all the information. The school happens, unfortunately, we just finished a whole group. We have hundreds of people from around the world that come and study with us.
Wow. That sounds like a huge opportunity, both of them.
It's such a profound way to give somebody a chance to really understand the cosmic picture, like in simple English, because my specialty is talking English, not making it too abstract.
That's good, because, like I said before, when I had one done, it was like I might as well have been trying to read, like, Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Wait,
yeah, exactly.
Great.
That's exactly right.
We're about out of time, but it's great having you both on. Thanks for coming
on,
Debra.
Thank you for coming.
And thank you for coming on, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you.